Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin. Happy Monday to you guys. For those of you that have the 5-day work week, I hope you all had a great weekend. For those of you who are somewhere in the middle of your week, maybe it's your Tuesday, maybe it's your Friday, hope the rest of the week goes quickly and you enjoy your weekend when it comes up. Today, we're talking about Stealin', the wonderful second song off of the 6th studio album from the band Sweet Freedom. I covered this back on February 11th, 2021, and you guys can go back and listen to that review. To make it easy for you, I've got the link in the show notes, or you can go to my website, www.scotthaskin.com, click on the Uriah Heep podcast link, drop all the way down to the Sweet Freedom link, and I have a link for every season with a different album. And then it takes you right to that page where all the episodes are available for you to stream right off the website. You don't even have to have a podcast player on your phone or on your computer. But if you do, you can also find it that way. Before we get into today's episode, of course, it's Monday. So I just want to give a quick shout out to Audionamics, to Waves, to Cakewalk by BandLab, who I have been with since they were 12-tone systems back in the late 90s, I think is when I first got like Cakewalk 4.5, I think was my origin with them. Scott Lazinski, who did an amazing job on the logo, to Podbean, the host of the show currently, to all the centers that it distributes to host it, like Apple Podcasts and iTunes and Amazon and all the places that the podcast can be found. Stitcher Radio is a big one. I get a lot of listens off of Stitcher. So yeah, thank you guys all. Thank everyone who has shared the podcast with someone, who've shared episodes, who've told people that they should check out the show. It's a great way to get into Uriah Heep. If you've heard of them and you want to get into finding out more about the band, it's a great place to start because everything's right there for you, except for live albums outside of Live in 73, which I did with Dave White back in the day. And thank you to Dave White. He runs uriah-heep.com, also mick-box.net. Some very, very well-crafted websites. The stores are there. You guys can get your merch. You can order albums. All the links are there. It's great. There's lyrics. There's history on everything. It's all there. Great place to go. So check that site out. Check out my site because there's lots of stuff about the podcast. Links to the work of the individuals like Phil's books and Paul Newton's book that he just wrote and put out, all kinds of stuff. So go check out both of those pages. And let's get into the Deep Dive Podcast Network. You can find all of the shows listed at deepdivepodcastnetwork.com. Nate from the Deep Purple Podcast does a great job putting that site together and maintaining it. Very appreciative to Nate for all the work that he does on that. A lot of great shows. I'm not going to go into all of them today. I do it every week. You can also, again, go to scotthaskin.com, click on either the Uriah Heep podcast link or the Aerosmith podcast link, because I do another show. I do Backtracks Aerosmith Revisited with my co-hosts Corey Morissette and John Mariano. They actually had the show themselves for quite some time. They also do another show called Backtracks Theme Music, where they dig into all things thematic, music and film and television and that sort of thing. But I've been a guest on the Aerosmith podcast a couple times. It was really working out well, and we were joking about me just becoming a permanent member. And about a half hour after we ended that call, they wrote me and said, "Hey, we're not kidding. Why don't you be a member?" And so, boom, there I became a co-host of the third podcast now that I'm on, along with the Haskincast podcast. So, it's a podcast world for me. I do, right now I'm doing like 5 shows a week, so it's keeping me on my toes. But for now, we're going to get into Stealin'. And man, if I could steal some time, that'd be the one thing I'd grab. And, there's no victim, so it's even better. Here it is by Uriah Heep. The bass is a little quiet. I like the tone of it, though. It's got a good sound. Feels a little choppy to me, though, the playing. It doesn't feel very smooth and even. I went back and listened to it a couple of times, and I can't pinpoint exactly where it's off, but it definitely does not feel like a smooth performance. Organ sounds really nice, though, nice and gritty and heavy, but the balance of volume between these two are very organ heavy, I would say, at least so far. Okay, that's kind of weird. So the bass was kind of fading in. It was a pretty slow fade in the beginning, so I didn't notice it. But yeah, now the volume's kind of closer to where it should be. It's kind of nice that Phil dropped down a bit on the pitch of the Hammond and gave us a different flavor for the song. So that was a nice surprise.
Take me across the water, 'cause I need some place to hide. I done the rancher's daughter, and I sure didn't hurt his pride. Ooh, ooh, ah, ooh,
Yeah, it's a nice build into the vocals. I like the a little more extended of an opening and just hitting some different pitches in there. It wouldn't work for as much for me on record, but in a live setting, I think that would be a great way to perform the song. Building up a little anticipation with the crowd kind of thing. I think it would be brilliant. Where I'm really confused on this album is if this was kind of prep for a tour. Why do we have some songs fading out, some songs that are layered with multiple, like a couple guitar tracks or something like that? It just not really sure what this album is supposed to be, I guess. So what I could do is really just take each song for what it is, knowing that there was the intent of prep of a live application. I would say this is a great opening for performance in a live set.
now there's 100 miles of desert lies between his hide and mine. I don't need no food or no water, Lord, 'cause I'm running out of time. Fightin'.
Yeah, for sure. Everything has come together by this point. The bass is nice and solid. I love what Phil's playing. He's really being a bit adventurous, but staying again, within the song. But I love the way it sounds. It's he could just be playing the chords, or like the chord structure with a rhythm to it. But I really like the way that he's kind of moving around the keyboard and adding some interesting flavors. You just, like I've said, if you're going to redo your own songs, you got to do something different with them. And I think he's really making this a creative opportunity. I really like what he's doing. And Bernie, of course, sounds fantastic. I've heard him do this song live before. I mean, they did it when I went to see them, both times, I believe. And it was a treat. It was just an absolute treat.
Killin, wine and women, gonna put me to my grave. Runnin, hidin, losing, cryin, nothing left to say.
I'm really digging Trevor's bass tone at this point. It definitely sounds like he's playing with a pick, but it sounds kind of funky too, which you wouldn't expect for this kind of song. Because really, this is more of like I want to say like a blues shuffle is how I would probably categorize it. But in any case, he's got a really, really good sound on his bass. And it's rounding things out well because we don't have guitars. We don't really have drums, and we just have a count on the hi-hat. And so it's really up to Bernie, Trevor, and Phil to make the song happen up to this point. That's going to change here, but, up to this point.
But my life,
love the way they did that build up to this point, because now when Mick and Lee come in, now it just explodes with energy, right? All of a sudden, this song went from a couple of guys up on stage giving you some sound to explosive, everybody being in the moment. Very well done. And the band is just on fire here. I really think so. I think this is one of the best performances I've heard on this album so far. That solo tells me that Mick felt exactly the same way I do. Like, the band's on fire. He jumped in and he really pushed the guitar. You know, I feel like him really pulling on those strings to make this solo happen. And yeah, this was magic, I think, that they captured that day. Nice backups. I'm not sure. I think there was a combination of male and female vocals in there. Definitely sounded thick, though. Really love Bernie's passion. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with the rest of the song, because now we're in that one, repetitive part. But yeah, cool song. Lots of power, great emotion. Well, the nice thing about this is, if you were playing this live, this is a jam that you could just let go on as long as you like, as long as the crowd's into it, or as long as you feel like playing it. If you have to buy time for a prop or something to be set up, whatever the case is, this is a great song to play to keep things going in the meantime. It's just a party, I like the stops too. I thought that was nice. Again, doesn't really translate to record for me, but in a live setting, that would be awesome. Definitely 2 thumbs up for this one. Might be one of the favorites from this album so far. Still a little bummed about Blind Eye, I'll be honest. But you know what? I still have a version that I absolutely love. And maybe one day I'll grow to love this one too. Who knows? Time will tell. You know what else it's time for? The end of the show. I hope you guys enjoyed this song. It's a great one. I hope you guys have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow for another episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. Cheers. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show, and thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!